Now, the U.S. government's development finance institution, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, has announced a $1 billion US dollar investment fund and program in Africa through the Connect Africa initiative. This is in a bid to boost infrastructure, communications, and value chains connectivity. Earlier on, I spoke to the CEO, President of OPIC, that's Ray Washburne, to give us a sense of the particular direction. Take a look.
For this year, well, we currently have a portfolio in Africa, in the continent of Africa, of about $6.5 billion. And it's in everything from infrastructure projects to coffee plantations to all types of projects across full spectrum.
Right. Let's talk about the White House as it stands right now. We did see the proposal for the fiscal year, at least 2019, at least from President Trump. And there's a need, at least he's pushing this agenda to modernize the relationship between Africa and the U.S. away from aid towards trade. Where does OPIC fit in this particular picture?
Well, OPIC, which was started in 1971, has operated under financing techniques that have been 30 to 40 years old. And so there's a new act going through Congress. It's actually going to be voted on tomorrow, on Tuesday, called the BUILD Act. It's going to take OPIC and not only add new authorizations to us. One will include equity authority, which is very important to us because in Africa, with our portfolio here, we've typically we provided two things: political risk insurance and structured finance, which is debt financing. But now we'll also have the opportunity to put equity in the projects, which is going to go a long way to helping us invest in many more projects here.
You've touched there on the political risk, which is quite fascinating. Lots of exposure, at least from American companies or EFTs that might want to get some exposure here on the continent. But emerging markets, frontier markets, many of the markets here in Africa have this particular problem, at least for the risk. What do you bring to the table here?
Well, I'll give you an example. I was in Rwanda 4 days ago, and there's a company there called Rwanda Trading Company, which is a coffee company, and it sells coffee to Walmart and many companies. They have 90,000 farmers that sell to them. Well, they needed political risk insurance because they have currency issues that they need political risk coverage on. They also have contract issues. And so political risk insurance goes a long way in many countries to helping protect U.S. businesses from those type of fluctuations.
I'm very fascinated by the structured finance. Do we see this going both ways, at least with an entry into the African markets, exposure into African markets, and vice versa, some exposure into some of the, great companies on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, to mention but a few?
Right. Well, we back lots of companies. I've got 700 projects in 130 countries right now. And so in South Africa, for example, yesterday I visited a affordable housing project that we're looking to help finance. It's going to provide 16,000 homes that vary for entry-level home buyers, everywhere to a company that manufactures bricks out of soda ash that they sell. So we're full, as I said earlier, we're full spectrum across all industries.
AGOA, one very contentious issue, of course, came in over 15 years ago.
Sure.
Some countries like Rwanda have taken this particular standpoint not to allow some imports in from the States, of course, secondhand here. What's your take on this one?
Well, that's really a matter for our Congress and our legislation. I'm over here with our Connect Africa initiative, which I just committed another $1 billion into Sub-Saharan Africa, so I'm over here looking for projects to do in these countries, and I've got visits to 6 countries, so we plan on going back with a lot of new projects.
Telecom, very many oil companies, at least in the States.
Right.
Which companies actually stand out here?
You know, the interesting thing, in my week, actually 10 days being here, is we like logistics a lot because we think that helps open up markets, whether it's ports, highways. We're going to help finance a toll road in Kenya. That's going to be a multi-billion-dollar project that's going to help open that country up to trade. South Africa, we'd like to look at things that help on the energy sector here, bring energy prices down. Those are all the type of infrastructure projects we're looking at.
Let me just take you through the numbers here. Something that's very fascinating is U.S. exports to Sub-Saharan Africa doubled from $21.8 billion to, 21.8, this coming from just over $10 billion in 2000. One thing that really stands out is China right now, having this huge footprint on the continent in the past few decades. Do you feel under pressure from the Chinese government right now, at least the investment that is coming in?
Well, what's interesting what the Chinese are doing, if you look at places like Sri Lanka, where they put billions of dollars into a port that gets 1 to 2 ships a month into it, made no economic sense. They ended up foreclosing it back. And so it's putting countries into great debt. And we're seeing that throughout Africa as well, as they're going in and offering incredible terms, way too much money, and these projects are not sustainable. And so I'm accountable to the American taxpayer, and so projects we do have to make economic sense. So I don't know how the Chinese are going to continue doing what they're doing.